Ever opposed voluntary busing. Oh, I fought my heart out to ensure that civil rights and voting rights, equal rights are enforced everywhere.
That's former Vice President Joe Biden trying to defend his record on busing in the aftermath of Senator Kamala Harris's debate night attack. Joining me now to break it down is Democratic strategist Antoine Seawright, former senior advisor to Hillary Clinton's campaign in South Carolina, and Boston Herald radio host Adriana Cohen, who is also a nationally syndicated columnist. Guys, good morning. Antoine, I'm going to start with you. I want to know, what do you make of how Biden responded to these criticisms by Senator Harris? Is there going to be a long-term hurt here?
Well, I don't think so. Look, I think Joe Biden came into this debate as the front runner, so there was a different level of expectations and a different level of performance measure for him versus Senator Harris. Now, with that being said, we can't downplay what the senator was feeling about this issue. My leader, Mr. Clyburn, Jim Clyburn, says in his memoirs, our lives are the sum total of our experiences. And she made this scenario the other night about her personal experiences. But I would caution Democrats who want to get into this back and forth about these kind of issues. The other side is just waiting for us to finish our nomination process. We know that Donald Trump is a racist. We know he's a bigot. And these racial arguments do not help us in a general election because we know who Donald Trump is, and that is the big thing we should focus on. We have to get back to bread and butter issues, the thing that voters want to hear about. And I get it. The nomination process will allow us to have the marketplace of ideas to be discussed, but we can't get tripped up on these things and we limp into the general election.
Adriana, how is this drama playing out with Republicans that you're talking to?
Well, I think what Republicans see is that Democrats were the party, including Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, that supported the 1994 crime bill, which incarcerated a generation of black men unfairly. And that's something that Kamala Harris should have hit Biden with that night. I mean, of course, she should bring up busing and some of the other issues with, Biden saying that he could work with, segregationists, which is, appalling. But I'm waiting for one of these Democrats who are running to challenge, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. They voted for this crime bill where, in contrast, President Trump just passed the First Step Act. He's already achieved prison reform, and he's releasing men from prison who don't belong there. So he's done a lot for the black community. And Antoine, you call the president a racist. I see a president that has created more jobs and more economic opportunity for African Americans than any president in the past 50 years.
Adriana, a few things about the 94 crime bill. Yes, pieces of legislation has unintended consequences, but you have to look at what the 94 crime bill has done. It done something that Donald Trump will not address, and that's deal with assault weapons bans. And there's so many things about the 94 crime bill that we can talk about. But I do want to address the issue about Donald Trump being a racist and a bigot. Absolutely. We can talk about all these things that have happened thanks to President Obama's leadership, and Trump has benefited. But at the end of the day, you and I can both point to examples where racism and bigotry flows from his mouth and from his Twitter feed every single day, and you will not be able to dispute that in good conscience.
All right, Antoine, I want to follow up, though, because we have more comments from Joe Biden from that same speech yesterday that started another round of criticism. Listen to this.
We got to recognize that kid wearing a hoodie may very well be the next poet laureate and not a gangbanger.
All right, Senator Cory Booker reacting in a tweet. He said this isn't about a hoodie. It's about a culture that sees a problem with a kid wearing a hoodie in the first place. Our nominee needs to have the language to talk about race in a far more constructive way. So is he right?
Well, I think the vice president has to understand at this point, it's game on. This is a contact sport, and his opponents, although we're not running against each other, we're running for our party's nomination, are going to find every little thing to trip him up, because to whom much is given, much is required. He is the front runner. So I think he has to make some adjustments. But I go back to the point I made earlier. We can have these discussions about words and how they cut and impact people differently, but I think the voters are looking for Democrats to really put forth a policy agenda that will be laser focused on bread and butter issues, quality of life issues that we heard discussed in two nights on the debate stage that will really move our country forward. And we can't ignore that some things are very emotional to some and they cut through the hearts and minds of certain groups of people. But I don't think we can get caught up and tripped up on those things. If not, Donald Trump will serve 4 more years and we will be sentenced to 2 more years at least minimum in the minority in the Congress.
Well, Adriana, I want to know why earlier in this press conference in Osaka, President Trump basically thought Senator Harris was given too much credit for what she took on with Joe Biden on that debate stage on Thursday night. I mean, why is he defending Biden? What do you see as the strategy that he's taking here?
I think President Trump would like to run against Biden. Biden is weak in so many areas. I pointed out the crime bill, but he has a long track record of failing the American people. He's been in, he's been in the Senate and in Congress for decades. And what has he achieved? And if you contrast that with President Trump in the past 2 years, we have historically low unemployment for all Americans, including African Americans, although Antoine doesn't want to acknowledge that. That is a fact. He's passed prison reform, which is helping the African American community. We have strong GDP. Wages are up. He destroyed the ISIS caliphate. I mean, his list of achievements are long and strong in just 2 years. And what has Vice President Biden achieved? I mean, President Obama won't even endorse his vice president. That speaks for itself.
Adriana, you're going to make me jump out of this chair this morning. First of all, Donald Trump has had zero legislative accomplishments. That's why the Democrats did what we did in the 2018 midterms, and we beat you all like a drum at the ballot box. Number two, if you call his legislative success signing a number of executive orders, go right ahead. Democrats will be well on our way to retaking the White House in 2020. If you want to talk about what Joe Biden has done, my dear friend Google will help you out. He has a lifetime record of a real policy agenda that he has put forth that has transformed this country. Not to mention, he helped usher through one of the most transformational pieces of legislation in my political lifetime in the Affordable Care Act. And so you can make your straw man arguments all you want this morning about Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, but I'm willing to tell you, Donald Trump does not want to take on Joe Biden in a general election.
All right, you guys, Antoine, Adriana, it is always a spirited debate. Thank you both so much.